Thank you for having me. And first of all, I want to say it's a real pleasure to talk about, to be here today and to talk about women journalists, especially investigative journalists. In some way, I think talking about them is talking about some of the role models that I had when I was just starting as investigative reporter. I want to just mention two women, but I think, as you can see in this room, we have so many models we could admire and look up to. So one of them is Sheila Coronel. She's a pioneering reporter who started the Philippine Center for Investigative Reporting. And she exposed how then president built many houses to house his girlfriends. And following her investigation, he resigned. Another woman journalist is Janina Sanini, who brought down not one, but actually two presidents of Costa Rica. But also, if you look at into issue of female journalists, you basically realize that there is a dark shadow surrounding us. And it is that we face some serious problems that our male colleagues don't. First, I want to say that there are more female investigative reporters, at least in my part of the world. But part of it is because, first, journalism is a great profession for women. Or to be more exact, it's a low-pay, low-respect field where women can find jobs easily. And also, they could be easier bullied by the owners of the media. But we also are more susceptible to another risk, which is attacks. When I did my first major investigation, I was called a traitor, enemy of the state, CIA spy, and I was called that by a prime minister of country I investigated, Montenegro. When I did my second big investigation in Montenegro, revealing how prime minister and his family used public money to finance their real estate purchases, I received death threats, and I was said I need to be destroyed. Then I did my third big investigation in Montenegro, and what happened is that there was an article that showed up on one of the web portals which said, "When you say Miranda, but you mean sex." And for me, it was a huge shock, because I always believed that if I worked hard, if I tell truth, I'll live a clean life, nobody could ever attack me for being a journalist and for doing the work that I do. But I learned the hard way what bad people already know, which is if you cannot defeat the truth of the story, try to destroy the journalist. And using trolls and paid journalists and unethical publications, anyone can humiliate you and degrade you. But the attacks that I suffered are nothing compared to the attacks that my colleagues Vanja Čalović from Montenegro and Hatija Ismailova from Azerbaijan suffered. Vanja is a courageous activist, and she runs an organization that worked with me on uncovering the stories in Montenegro. And after we published one of the stories, her reward was that a friend of Prime Minister went and published her naked photos online. And when that didn't cause enough stir, what they did is they posted stills from a fictitious porn video alleging that she was having sex with dogs. And for over a month, one of the most read newspapers in the country was publishing on the front page the stills from the video, fictitious video, and asking questions whether this should be investigated. And very few raised voices against such an attack. I want to say another thing, which is an organization that was actually run by a figure who orchestrated that attack. Later received a huge EU grant, and I'm not making this up. The grant was for empowering women in Montenegro. Hatija Ismailova, she's a courageous journalist from Azerbaijan who spent years uncovering abuse, theft of state money, and unimaginable corruption by the first family of Azerbaijan. 2 years ago, she was jailed and spent 1.5 years in prison for the work that she did. But before jailing her, authorities planted camera in her apartment and filmed her being intimate with her boyfriend. When she refused to give up to extortion attempt to silence her and went publicly stating what was going on, the government actually released a video online. And, you know, she stood up, admitted the relationship, and refused to apologize. But in a society like Azerbaijan, which is very traditional, and, you know, when somebody can kill you to preserve a family honor, you can imagine how hard it was. Both Vanya and Hatice are strong women who kept their head high and endured, although at a great personal pain and suffering. But also many other female journalists capitulate and leave journalism for good. I think the EU has not been courageous and has stayed away from funding investigative reporting of the organizations that employ these women like Hatice and like Vanya. And I think one of the issues is that they don't want to be criticized by countries like Serbia, Montenegro, and others. But that means we are going backwards, because if we fail to stand up to bullies, we go backwards. I want to say that there are many courageous women. The values in the EU are gender equality in rights and in treatments, to be free of sexual harassment and mainstreaming. But women are being sexually harassed and mistreated by governments themselves. Governments like Serbia and Montenegro that seek to join EU, and this is something that should stop. And unless we want these gender issues to be empty words that reflect poorly on all of us, we must confront the bullies and stop the policy, this policy. There is no way to stop bad people from attacking journalists, we all know that. But it doesn't mean that the rest of us must still sit still and embarrassed and watch it happen.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much.